Welcome to our Learning About NetWitness video series. In this series, we will dive into different NetWitness platform aspects. Each video consists of a self-contained topic ranging from setting up a certain aspect of NetWitness to small use case scenarios. In this video, we will talk about configuring and enabling single sign-on, also known as SSO, for use with the NetWitness platform UI. The following are the prerequisites that you will need to complete this video: the NetWitness Platform Administrator account or an account with administrative privileges, the domain, host name or IP address, and network port of your Active Directory server or servers that the NetWitness platform will use for authentication, Active Directory server certificate if your Active Directory requires this for connections, determine if your network uses multiple authentication servers and if using referrals is required for your Active Directory domain. Determine if your Active Directory uses user principal name or SAM account name mappings. A domain account in Active Directory that the NetWitness platform can use to query the Active Directory servers being used for single sign-on. One or more domain groups containing the users who will be mapped within the NetWitness platform and use single sign-on. Access to upload XML files into your Active Directory server. Determine if you have HTTP proxy configured in your NetWitness system. Log into the NetWitness platform UI utilizing the administrator account or account with administrative privileges. Click the admin icon in the upper right corner. This will open the administration page. From here, click on the Security tab. Once in the Security area, click on the Settings tab and scroll down until you see the PAM Authentication section. Confirm that Enable PAM Authentication is not checked. This is important as PAM should not be active simultaneously when using Active Directory for account authentication. Next, look for the Active Directory Configuration section. Click the plus icon to open the Add New Configuration panel. While in Add New Configuration panel, perform the following steps. Check the checkbox next to Enable to activate this Active Directory configuration on save. Enter the domain, hostname or IP address, and port used by your Active Directory server. If your Active Directory requires an SSL certificate for connections, check the SSL checkbox, then click the Browse button and select the server certificate that your Active Directory administrator provided. Not all customer setups require this step. Please talk with your Active Directory administrator if you need clarification on whether this certificate is required. Under the username mapping, select either user principal name, also known as UPN, or select SAM account name. For most Active Directory setups, user principal name is the default option. If unsure, please check with your Active Directory administrator, as an incorrect option can cause the later steps to fail. If your company has multiple authentication servers, place a check mark in Follow Referrals to enable LDAP referral following for Active Directory group lookup. If you are unsure if your company uses referrals, please check with your Active Directory administrator. Enter a domain account and password used to query the Active Directory. It is best practice that the domain account used for connecting to the Active Directory server is generally a service account, with permissions to query the domain and validate user accounts and group membership. We suggest you only use a standard user account if your organization prohibits using service accounts. It is important to remember that if you select SAM account name under the username mapping field, you must enter the username in the format of network domain /username to authenticate with the Active Directory server correctly. At this point, the Active Directory server is now set up. Click Save to save the configuration to the NetWitness platform. You may repeat these steps if you have other Active Directory servers. You may also test your Active Directory setup once back in the Active Directory configuration section by selecting the configuration and clicking the Test button. If the test is successful, continue with the video. If the test fails, consult with your Active Directory administrator, network administrator, and NetWitness support for assistance. Did you know you can learn more about Active Directory setup and configuration within NetWitness by searching the term Active Directory on the NetWitness community page at community.netwitness.com. With Active Directory connected successfully, now map the Active Directory groups to the internal NetWitness security roles. Click on the External Group Mapping tab to continue. In the External Group Mapping, click the plus just under the tab title. This will open the Add Role Mapping panel. Did you know you can map a single Active Directory group to more than one NetWitness role? NetWitness looks at the permissions of all mapped roles and creates a composite set of permissions for that group. It is important to remember that when adding a role mapping, any external groups selected in a single mapping will all have the same NetWitness security role applied. So if you are setting up administrator and analyst roles, they should be on a separate role mapping. You can create as many role mappings as needed. Confirm that your Active Directory domain is selected in the domain dropdown, then click Search. NetWitness will then query Active Directory and display a list of all groups accessible to the user account used during setup. Recheck the user account with the Active Directory administrator if no group listings appear. Sometimes the user account can become locked or blocked and may require a password reset or have the account unlocked. Scroll through the list of groups and select the one that contains the users that will be accessing the NetWitness platform. It is best practice to create a specific Active Directory group just for NetWitness users. This will ensure that only the users that require access to NetWitness will be in the group and prevent accidental users from accessing the NetWitness UI. Once the external group from Active Directory is selected, click OK to return to the Add Role Mapping panel. Next, click the red plus sign under Mapped Roles to display all available security roles within the NetWitness UI. You may select as many roles as needed for the group you are creating. Did you know you can create your own custom NetWitness security roles? When any new custom created role exists, they too will appear here for selection. Once all needed roles are selected, click Add. Did you know if you want to see what specific permissions are being applied, select the roles in the Mapped Roles area and click the stoplight icon. This will open the Aggregate Permissions window, where you can review the permissions applied to this group. After you add all roles to the Add Role Mapping panel, click Save. The screen will change to reflect the newly created role mapping. Click on the Services area within the Admin panel. Find the Admin server under the Services area. Click the red gear, then click View, then Explore. Look for the Security folder in the left panel in the Admin server's Explorer view. Click the plus, then click on the plus next to the Authentication folder. Do the same for the Web folder and click on the SAML folder. Find the option called Trust-All-Certs-for-IDP-Metadata. Click where it says false. This will change to an entry field where you delete the false and type in true. Once done, press Enter to accept the change. It is important to take care when working in Explorer View for any NetWitness service. Explorer View is considered for advanced users. This means that safety measures may not exist to validate the changes you make, which can cause an interruption of service if you are not careful. If you need help working in Explorer View, stop and contact NetWitness support. In the Admin panel, click on Security, then click on the Single Sign-On Settings tab. Skip the Import IDP metadata field for now. We will return to this later in this video. Place a check in the Auto Import IDP Metadata checkbox. It is important not to check the Enable SSO checkbox at this time. Please keep it unchecked until requested to enable SSO later in this video, as further configuration must take place first. Select the checkbox next to Use Proxy if a HTTP proxy is required within your network. The system will use the HTTP proxy configured in the HTTP proxy settings within the system area of the Admin panel. Setting up the HTTP proxy within NetWitness is outside of the scope of this video. However, instructions for how to set up the HTTP proxy can be found on community.netwitness.com by searching for HTTP Proxy Settings panel. In the Entity ID field, create a unique name that will identify NetWitness within Active Directory. This ID must be a string value. It is best practice to keep the entity ID short but meaningful. An example would be NetWitness SSO, as this will show that it is a NetWitness entity for single sign-on. Optionally, you can select the Enable Global Logout checkbox. When this option is checked, whenever the user logs out of NetWitness, it will send a global logout request to Active Directory. This effectively logs the user out of all SSO-enabled applications within the network, not just NetWitness. It is important to remember that the Enable Global Logout checkbox is considered optional. If you are unsure about this option, just leave it unchecked as it can always be enabled at a later time. Click the Apply button and then the Export Service Provider Metadata button to get the Service Provider XML file. At this point, provide the Service Provider XML file to the Active Directory administrator and request that they import it into their Active Directory Trust Relationships folder utilizing the Add Relay Party Trust wizard. Also request that they provide the Identity Provider URL, which you will need in a later step. Setting up Active Directory is beyond the scope of this video. However, if your Active Directory administrator is unsure of how to apply the Service Provider XML, they may review the Microsoft article Configuring a SAML 2.0 Provider for Power Pages with ADFS. Please see the link in the description. Once the Active Directory administrator confirms that all configurations are complete, go back into the NetWitness UI under Admin, then Security. Click on the Single Sign-On Settings tab. Go to the Metadata URL field. Copy into this field the Identity Provider URL that your Active Directory administrator provided. This URL generally takes the form of https://youradfs/federation metadata/2007-06/federation metadata.xml. This URL allows NetWitness to access Active Directory and import the required metadata for the purposes of single sign-on. It is now time to enable single sign-on by placing a checkmark in the Enable SSO checkbox and clicking the Apply button. A notice will appear requesting to restart the NetWitness admin server. By clicking Yes, the admin server will restart. If you are currently unable to restart the admin server, click No and a manual restart of the admin server will be required before single sign-on becomes active. Once your admin server has been restarted, your single sign-on will now function for all users within the associated Active Directory groups. If there are any issues, please contact NetWitness support for assistance. We are always interested in your feedback. If you would like to provide some feedback on this topic or on this video, please email us. We enjoy hearing what everyone has to say as it allows us to provide the best level of information possible. For more NetWitness information and documentation, please visit our NetWitness community website at community.netwitness.com. Thank you for watching.